Good morning. Good morning. It is Phil Brilliant. It is simply brilliant for Tuesday, January 27th. I hope you are all warm and safe. And please, 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 please be careful on the ice. Whether you think you did a great job on your driveway or not, ice is forming overnight and you will slip and fall, and it does hurt. Heard a lot about it yesterday. And it's going to continue on. It appears into the weekend and possibly more snow in the weekend. I say this once, I say it 100 times. I love where we live in the Northeast. We expect 4 seasons. I always kid around and say I just don't expect them all in one day. But we got blasted on Sunday. Uh, Basically, no sleet here at the Jersey Shore. And it was funny because, I live in Tom's River over in Silverton. One of my employees lives over in Manchester, and the weather difference just between Manchester and where I am in Silverton was really interesting. He got a little more snow, I got more ice, and I will give kudos where kudos is always due. And our public works guys were amazing. I didn't see any public works guys around my home in Silverton. Mostly we saw private contractors. And I will tell you, having spent some days last winter in Quebec City and been out west also during snowstorms, we should learn from them. They do it better. They don't just come in with plows and plow in everybody's driveways. They actually have front end loaders. They load them onto trucks. They go dump them in fields. You know, they use these suckers, which are similar to what we use for leaf removal, and basically fill the truck up with snow and then dump it somewhere. That's the biggest issue is when, and I've seen a lot of it on social media, and it is not the mistake of public works or the private contractors. It's just how they do snow removal in New Jersey. So you clear the end of your driveway, and sure enough, that plow comes through 10 minutes later and plows you back in, and it is big, massive boulders of ice. Very difficult, will not work on the snowblower. You are basically breaking it up with an ice pick and hoping your shovel doesn't break. Uh, Yesterday, there were a couple of text messages that went out from the mayor, as well as some Facebook posts, and I'll just give this to you real quick. 848-349-7935 is the number you're supposed to text if your street was not plowed to your satisfaction. So make sure you do that. Again, that's 848-349-7935. Text message rates do apply. Haha. But no, I mean, there was definitely a lot of ice around town. And I will tell you, had firsthand experience of it. So yesterday did end our 160 days. It was actually 161 because the 160th day ended on Sunday for the recall of Daniel Rodrick. I'm going to touch upon that in 1 second. But I was out and about yesterday. Every resident I have met in Tom's River has been courteous. Every resident I've met in Tom's River has become friends. I mean, people are texting me, calling me. I may have to, figure a new way to hide in Tom's River. It's not going to work very well, but you know, we love to wait to the last minute. By that, I was running around yesterday morning collecting petition pages, and some of the pages they had signatures since November. So I'm notarizing the pages, because the requirement is you grab the page, they sign it in front of you as a notary, I notarize it. And we were doing everything by the book, making sure that we did everything exactly right so that there were no challenges had we made that number. I did that from about 7 o'clock in the morning until about 11, then came to my office, and people came into my office until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And that was where we got our final count. We needed 18,464. We did 16,963 unverified signatures. So let me tell you what that means. That means that we did not submit the signatures to the Toms River Clerk's office to be verified. And the reason we didn't do it is twofold. We didn't meet the number. So why would we submit the petitions to have him come back after he spends 10 days of Tom's River time, of staff time, going and taking every signature, verifying it's valid, verifying they're on the voter registration list, and then coming up with a number when we already knew we didn't make the number? Does it matter if that number verified is 16,963 or if it's 12,400? Doesn't really matter. The fact is, we didn't hit 18,464. And in my book, we needed to have about 20 to 21,000, because going through the forms and going through the files and going through the petitions, and we've done our own verification and looking and comparing and stuff like that. A, people didn't put their proper names. Anthony put Tony. Sue, Zan put Sue. You needed to put your voter registration name. The other thing too, and this really surprised me, their addresses. If you move, change your voter registration to where you have moved to. Please, please, for the next time, if we ever have to do this again. Those were issues that we saw. And by the way, people who've been here for 40 years, they love going to the Silverton Firehouse. So they've never changed their voter registration. And you can do that when you renew your license very easily, or you can do it through the Board of Elections. Highly recommend people do it. But the flip side to it, the second thing is we made a promise. I personally made a promise to people when they were signing, when they were handing in petitions, and they said to me, if we make the number, I'm all in. We need to recall Daniel Rodrick and get an election. I stand before that, and I know that my signature will be operable, and whether it's Daniel Rodrick or somebody else will know I signed. If we do not have enough, please do not submit my signature, because I do not want retaliation from Dan Rodrick or from any of his puppets, or I don't want my name posted all over Facebook that I signed the petition. Maybe I'm a public official. Maybe I'm a business owner. Maybe I'm an executive. Maybe my company doesn't want me to sign, but I signed anyway because I believe Daniel Rodrick needs to be recalled. Can you make me that promise? I made that promise. The committee made that promise, and we will hold to that promise. You know, so those are the two reasons why we are not submitting. And it's interesting because I have had this whole plan that I'm going to march into the council meeting tomorrow night and address this. And I wanted to have the stack. I'm exaggerating. The stack's not this high. I did put a picture out there to show the petitions. We have a stack this big for when we did the petition. Let's see if you can see. This big for when we did the petition to the police ordinance for the animal shelter. That was 3,049. We averaged about 4,000 to 5,000 for those signatures, and they were both verified by the township clerk. But we knew we had over 3,049 signatures. Now the pile, my hands can't go that big. Remember, the fish was this big. But I was going to march in, and some people have told me, that's great. You should definitely do that. Other people, as well as some advisors and counsel, have said, you promised people that their names would not be shared if you did not meet the number. On the outside chance that I drop the pile, on the outside chance that someone goes through the pile, on the outside chance that I hold it up and someone's name is visible on the video, I have been told don't do that. Props, propaganda, BS isn't what's necessary. The facts are the facts, which is interesting because last night, looks like around 9 o'clock last night, when everybody else was trying to figure out what they were doing with their kids tomorrow because there's no school in Tom's River, when everybody was trying to figure out how they were getting out of their driveway because they still had these big ice boulders in town. Mayor Daniel Rodrick was taking to the email waves through his personal account and emailing, as he calls it, members of the Toms River Republican Party. Now, I will tell you, I am a registered Republican. I consider myself a Republican, though I'm probably, liberal on some issues when it comes to helping the homeless, when it comes to food insecurity, when it comes to religious rights. Um, I didn't get the email, so I guess I'm in his world not a member of the Toms River Republican Party. It probably should say the Toms River, GOP club. But anyway, um, he basically said it's time to set the record straight. I have had a private investigator at my own cost following the recall committee around town, and basically goes through this whole thing and claims BS. He claims that there's not even 1,000 signatures. I think that's the number he put out here. Okay. So he can do whatever he wants to do. The bottom line is 16,900. I forgot the number already. I had 18,464 in my mind. That was what we needed. 16,963 unverified. And I will not argue the fact they're not verified. Okay. I've gone through, again, I saw wrong addresses. I saw a couple people signed multiple times. They didn't remember. It's 160 days, I guess your memory lapses, you know. So 16,963 signatures, unverified. Okay. And I'll also say, I love people in Pine Lake Park. I love people in Holiday City, Berkeley. It's not Toms River. Do I see their zip codes? Yes, I do. Okay. Once again, unverified. But are there well more than the number that Roderick is saying? There are well more. Where will we end up? Well, we're going to work our way through that, and we're going to come up with where we are verified wise. But that's going to be ours. It's not certified by the clerk, and that is what it is. But with that said, his rhetoric has got to change, and I really ask people to pay attention to what's going on here in Toms River, because it's not about who yells louder. It's about what is happening in this town. And that goes back to whether you know or not, I'm going to tell you right now. So last week, business administrator Jonathan Solanas resigned, temporary leave of absence, whatever you want to call it. And I got to pull it up here because there's a couple words here that still baffle me. So he calls it a temporary leave. It's an email from himself, not from the mayor. I will need to take a temporary leave from my current role as business administrator effective immediately to spend additional time attending to personal matters. I don't really need to know what his personal matters are. Mayor Roderick is appointing Drew Chabot to the role of acting business administrator during my leave. Would have been nice to hear from the mayor. By the way, this did not go out to the town. So nobody in town knows about this unless you're watching me right now or you follow social media. Here's the thing. I look forward to reassuming the role of business administrator in the future and to serving the residents in whichever role the mayor assigns for me during my temporary leave. Is he on temporary leave or not? What roles would the mayor assign to him if he's on temporary leave? This bothers me because this goes back to Toms River being run by Keystone cops right now. And that goes back to this email he sent out last night around 9 o'clock, because he never has anything of substance. It is all about me, 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 me. Here's what I did. Here's what I did. Here's what I did. But what are you doing for the 100,000 residents of Toms River, the 74,000 voters? And you want to know why we could get over 16,000 signatures? That's the fact. In this email, he says, the facts speak for themselves. My administration has done what no other governing body has done in New Jersey. We reduced the municipal budget by 9%, cutting $11 million in wasteful spending a year. But yet, he's gone back to get money because he didn't estimate in his budget that any police officers would retire. Remember that money? Happened in December when they moved money from the police budget to pay a settlement that does predate this administration, but they didn't have enough money in the bank. They had to move the money around. So, this is like a shell game as to how money is moved back and forth. And then again, we stopped the 10-story towers. It was not 10 stories, it was six. It was a redevelopment in downtown Toms River, and you didn't stop it. You put it into court. And that's the thing that continues to PO me the most. Okay. Because he also puts in here about affordable housing, on how they have the best plan for affordable housing. And I can't remember where it is here, a creative plan, which, oh, here it is. Uh, New construction requirements to just 184 units. Again, that's 184 affordable housing units. It's 900 units overall, people. Okay. It's not just 184. Creative deed notices, deed restrictions. So they extended deeds for 30 years. They used $9 million from the trust fund. All of this is about kicking the can down the road so that when Daniel Rodrick is long and gone and those people who follow him have to deal with it. All it is. There's no constructive governing going on in Toms River. It's how can I sue somebody or have somebody sue me so that when I'm out of office, that's when they'll deal with it? How can I have money used that is down the road, 30 to 40-year pilots, payment in lieu of taxes, so that our grandkids will deal with it and Daniel Roderick won't? This is all this is, you know. And then again, I always love the fact, recent polls show my administration approval ratings at 66%. And he says, if the recall committee had that many signatures, they would have come to my house or every other house. Nobody called me about his approval rating. So I asked a bunch of people last night on my text messages and my emails. Nobody called them either. So 66% for Daniel Roderick's approval rating must be the four people in his house. That means like two and a half people, or a person and a half that they didn't approve, which I would agree. Again, we did not fail. We didn't meet our goal. And our goal was to recall Daniel Roderick or at least have that special election. We didn't get there. We worked hard. The committee worked hard. Every volunteer, snow, rain, they were all around town. We did meet and greets in every ward throughout town. People came out and told us they were not happy with what's happening. They signed the petition, or they told us and they said, we can't sign. We're a relative of somebody who works in town. We're a relative of a police officer. We do EMS services, whatever it might be. There's a laundry list as long as my arm. Okay. Pay attention, residents of Toms River. Voters pay attention, because we may not have succeeded in the recall, but in 2027, there is an election for this mayor, and we need to make sure we succeed then, because we cannot take another 4 years. But I'm not spending my time on that right now. I'm going to spend my time on two other topics. One, tomorrow at 4 p.m. at the library, second floor, there is a Ocean County Library Commission meeting, and there'll be an executive session, which means we can't listen to what they're talking about. But the topic is the JBJ Soul Kitchen downtown. I spoke last week or 2 weeks ago at the meeting and asked them to continue the lease. I showed to them that they don't need to go to an RFP because nonprofits have an exemption in that process. Hopefully they're listening. I think the county commissioners, separate, are listening and they see the need. The coldest time of the year, the time of the year where people need shelter and substance the most, nourishment, don't take it away from them, and then figure out a long-term solution. That's tomorrow at 4 p.m. at the library. And then the council meeting tomorrow night is at 6:30, and the council chambers, council, whatever you want to call it, meeting room. You should come out. I really hope it's not 4.5 hours again, because I'm not sure I can stay up that late 2 weeks in a row, or two every other week. Agenda looks relatively vanilla. I don't see anything outlandish here. There are two things though. One, I'm interested just personally on resolution C. is the Bahama Breeze liquor license is getting transferred. Wonder what's going into Bahama Breeze. I don't know. Um, there is a closed session, a resolution to go to closed session. That's number 7. So that's early on in the meeting. And then there are two resolutions in the consent agenda. One is a return of an RFP for the township council to hire an attorney. Um, and again, I believe they need somebody on their side. There's nobody on their side working at town hall. They're all scared of Daniel Rodrick and won't cross him. 2 people left 2 weeks ago. Okay. Um, I'm not going to say their names because I 2 women. They're from the payroll department. And I'm forgetting. I think it's Alexis or Alex Gallo and Jen Pucci or Pookie. I apologize if I'm pronouncing names wrong, but they're gone. They were Tom's River employees. They're gone. Okay. Circumstances are questionable. We'll put it that way. But I hear both of them had run-ins with Mr. Jonathan Solanas, who's also gone. Interestingly enough, same week. And then the last thing on the agenda is authorizing the scheduling of a special council meeting to investigate health insurance and JIF. That's a joint insurance fund. Not sure what that is. Hopefully we'll learn more as we go into the council meeting tomorrow night at 6:30. Please make sure to come out. Don't tune in online. Come out. 6:30 at night, you can do it. Okay? And be careful on the ice. Last thing I have on my notes here, and tough to imagine, but yesterday in Gaza, the last hostage, 843 days ago, who was taken, Ran Gavili, and I apologize if I pronounced the name wrong, his body was found. So that represents the last body, the last live or deceased individual from October 7th of 2023. And will mark the next start of a wave of work to be done in Gaza from the peace agreement that was negotiated Friday night at my congregation, Congregation B'nai Israel, at 6:30. We'll have a service. We have had a chair on the bima with an American flag, with a Israeli flag draped over it to represent all of those hostages. And now that the last hostage has his body returned to his family, that chair and that flag will be removed from the bima in a ceremony, because we never forget. And I think it's important that we don't forget and we remember the past to learn that we don't repeat it in the future or in the current day. And I think that's important in everything that's going on in this world right now. So kind of end a little bit on a down/up note, because we are here to learn and to make sure the future is better than it was for people who have been involved in war, in terrorism, and in events that have changed their families and ended their lives. That's our obligation. And that's our obligation because of humanity. And I've said it once, I'll say it 100 times. I think we all need to really promote humanity and humane solutions and answers to problems in today's society. So I am Phil Brilliant. Today is January 27th. It's simply brilliant. And I hope you have a great day. Please be careful on the ice.